Hey kids, it's me, Teacher A. In this video, I will give an introduction on the theory of interest. Okay, let's start. Here are the topics that we are going to cover in this video. Okay, so I'm going to define some terms, okay, like the accumulation and amount functions. And then I'm going to introduce the first measure of interest, which is the effective rate of interest. And then we are going to consider two interest rate assumptions. Okay, they are the simple and the compound interest rate assumptions. Okay, so let me ask you first, what is interest? It says here, interest is an additional compensation paid by the borrower for the use of an asset that belongs to the lender over a period of time. Also, interest gives time value of money. What do you mean by that? You pay interest for the time na hindi hawak ni lender yung pera niya. Okay? And we also have this, birth of money from money. Ito yung tinatawag na nanganganak ang pera. So that means your money grows. Okay? Lumalaki yung pera mo. Alright? Okay. So let's define some basic terms here. So we have here the principal. This is the original amount of money invested. Okay? Ito yung original of money na pinahiram mo. When you invest, it's like you lend money. Okay? Ipinahiram mo yung pera mo. Alright? Okay. Next, we have measurement period or simply period. This is the unit in which time is measured. So, pwede in terms of years, months, every 2 months, every 6 months. Okay? Next, the accumulated value. This is the amount that you received after a period of time or after the investment period. Okay? So, usually, most of the time, this is bigger or larger than the principal. Of course, kaya ka nga nag-invest, gusto mo lumaki ang pera mo. But that is not always the case in real world. Okay? Especially if you invest in the stock market. Okay? Kasi napaka-volatile ng stock prices. So, mataas ang chance na bumaba ang original investment mo. Pero dahil sa risk na yon, mataas yung risk na bumaba yung principal or original amount of investment mo, mataas din ang return nun. Kapag bigla kang kumita in the stock market, malaki din ang kikitain mo. Basta you invest in the right company. Okay? Lastly, we have the amount of interest. So basically, it's just the difference between the accumulated value and the principal. Kung ano man yung difference na yun, that is the amount of interest. Alright? Okay, so here, we have the accumulation function. Ano kaya ito? So, our notation for the accumulation function is a small a of t. Okay, where t is greater than or equal to 0. Ang t dito, time to. Okay? So, ano yung accumulation function? This gives the accumulated value, the amount of your money at time t of an investment of 1 unit made at time 0. So it's like if you consider this time diagram, you invested 1 unit at time 0, and after t periods, okay, it can be t years, t months, okay, t hours, okay. The value of your money is given by small a of t. Okay, so at this moment, wala pa tayong form or formula for a of t. Later on, if we have the two interest rate assumptions, magkakaroon na tayo ng formula for the accumulation function. Okay, for now, first, we have a of 0. Okay, so interpret natin ito in words. Ano ba yung a of 0? This is the accumulated value of your investment of 1 unit at time 0. So, magkano ang pera mo at time 0? It's equal to the original amount invested, which is 1 unit. Okay? What about property number 2? The accumulation function is an increasing function in general. Yes, of course, diba? Kaya nga tayo nag-i-invest because we want to make our money grow. Okay? And then finally, we have if interest accrues continuously, then we have a continuous accumulation function. Next, we have the amount function. Okay? Madali ito kasi medyo kahawig niya yung accumulation function. Okay? So ano ba ang amount function? So it is denoted by a capital A, capital letter or uppercase letter A. Okay? So kaya ako kanina small a ng small a kasi we have this capital A. Okay? So this also gives the accumulated value at time t, but this time the amount invested at time 0 is k units. So yun lang ang difference ng accumulation function at amount function. Ang accumulation function, the original amount invested is 1 unit. Ang amount function, k units ang original amount invested. So we may consider this time diagram. So it's like you invest k units at time 0, and then after t periods, okay, you're going to receive this value. Okay? Okay, and it should be clear also that capital A of 0 is k units. Kasi ito yung original amount invested. And we can relate the capital A and small a in this way. Okay? So capital A of t is equal to k times small a of t. So ito palagi natin gagamitin, this relationship. Alright? Okay. So I have here some graphs of amount functions. As you can see, yung first two graphs of the amount function, they are both increasing functions. Okay? Ito yung usual na makikita ninyong graph ng accumulation function. Okay? What about the third graph? What do you notice? Okay? Hindi nag-grow yung original amount invested mo. Okay? So it's just like putting your money in a piggy bank. Yeah? Okay, hindi nag-grow. Okay, what about here? Hindi continuous yung amount function, may jump. No, it's like for a certain period of time, constant, hindi nag-grow, and then bigla siyang magja-jump, ibig sabihin mag-grow yung pera mo, and then constant ulit siya, and then mag-grow, and then constant. So dito tayo sa first two graphs magfo-focus. Okay, so you'll see when we discuss the two interest rate assumptions. And then we have amount of interest. Okay, so madali lang to kasi this will give us the amount interest earned during a period. So during one period only. So if you have like this, I of n, okay, so ibig sabihin ito, you're going to get the amount of interest during the nth period. So you're going to get the difference, okay, between the accumulated value at time n at saka accumulated value at time n minus 1. Yung dalawang magkasunod lang na period. Okay, yun yung ibig sabihin ng notation na I of n. So let me give you an example. So let's say we have this time diagram. Anong ibig sabihin ng time diagram na ito? You invested 10 units at time 0. And then, yung 10 units mo nag-grow. Naging 15 after one period. And then, 28 na siya after 2 periods. Okay? And then, after 8 periods, yung investment mo naging 40. Now, I want you to get I of 8. What do you mean by this? Amount of interest during the 8th period. So, ang focus nyo lang dito lang. Ito ang pang-8 period. Okay? Kasi ito yung first period. This one. Okay? Ito yung second period. Ito ang 8th period. Ito lang ang i-consider ninyo. Okay? So, ganito lang nyo hahanapin. Ano yung accumulated value at time 8 at ano yung accumulated value at time 7. And then you get the difference. So, basic. Right? Okay. So, kunyari I of 1, ito lang yon, first period. So, it's 15 minus 10. Okay? What if I ask you to get the amount of interest earned for the 8 periods? Okay? So, you may do like, for the first period, 5 ang interest. For the second period, it's 28 minus 15. So you have 13. As you can see, we cannot do it period per period because hindi naman lahat given. Okay? Pero pwede nyo gawin yun kapag given. Yun nga lang, mahaba. Okay? It will take you a lot of time. Ang gagawin nyo lang naman to get the amount of interest for 8 periods, yung dulo minus ng original investment. Okay? So it's like this. Okay? So the answer is 30. Ito yung amount of interest sa buong 8 periods na nag-invest ka. Let's now have this first measure of interest. Okay? The other measures of interest will be discussed in my next videos. Okay? So this is the definition of the effective rate of interest. So the effective rate of interest I, this is our notation, this is the amount of interest, okay, earned at the end of the period if 1 unit is invested at the beginning of the period. So we are going to recall the formula in getting the amount of interest. Kasi sabi dito, the effective rate of interest, I, is the amount of interest. So, recall natin to. Okay? And then, we can write the I of n in terms of small a's. Right? Kasi we know that capital A is equal to k times small a. Okay. And we let k equals 1 and n equals 1. What do you mean by k equals 1? Okay, it means that 1 unit is invested at the beginning of the period. So you imagine 1 unit at time 0. And then n equals 1 because we're just going to consider the first period. So from the definition here, your I, okay, this is the effective rate of interest, is equal to amount of interest dito sa first period. Okay? So, ipa-plug in lang natin yung value na k equals 1 and n equals 1 dito. Okay? So, that's why we have this. Okay? So, 1 times a of 1 minus 1 times a of 0. Okay? But what is a of 0? It is 1. So, that's why you have this. Okay? So, yung I, the effective rate of interest, is equal to a of 1 minus 1. And you may want to write in this way. Your accumulation function, okay, at time 1 is equal to 1 plus I. Yung I dyan, yan yung tinatawag na effective rate of interest during the first period of investment. And the effective rate of interest is usually written as a percentage. Okay? So, let me give you another definition for the effective rate of interest. Ito naman, this will give us the effective rate of interest for any period. Kasi kanina, di ba, we only get the effective rate of interest for the first period only. We have I. Okay? Okay, so it says here, the effective rate of interest is the ratio of the amount of interest earned during the period to the amount of the principal invested at the beginning of the period. Okay, so you can imagine any period. Okay, so let's say nth. You want to get the effective rate of interest during the nth period. Okay, it is denoted by ito, I sub n. This is the effective rate of interest during the nth period. So sabi dyan, amount of interest during the period, so it's I of n. Okay? Over, this is the amount of principal at the beginning of the period. Ito yung n minus 1, di ba? A of n minus 1. It's like getting the percent increase during your elementary days. Okay? Tingnan nyo. Ito yun, di ba? Your I of n is equal to this one. Itong nasa taas, ito yung new value minus old value divided by the old value. And you will get the percentage increase. Okay? And then, here, we can write this capital A's in terms of small a's. Diba? Nasaan yung K? Diba? Ang capital A is equal to K times A of n. Okay? Ito rin may K. Nag-cancel out lang yan. Okay? If you want to check if this is correct, you may substitute I sub 1. Okay, ibig sabihin, the amount of interest during the first period. Okay, so you have, substitute natin dito sa last. A of 1 minus A of 0, kasi 1 minus 1, over A of 0. But what is A of 0? 1. So do you see, we get the same answer? I sub 1, the effective rate of interest during the first period, is equal to A sub 1 minus 1. Take note that I sub 1 is simply I. Alright? Okay. Now, to establish the accumulation function, let's have these two assumptions, two interest rate assumptions. Okay? The first assumption is the simple interest rate. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Okay? Interest is applied only to the principal. Okay? So, ina-apply lang yung interest dun sa original amount invested. Okay? So, it's like this. So, let's say we have 6% as our constant simple interest rate. We also consider that we invest 1 unit at time, 0. Okay, so that's why we have this. Okay, A of 0 is equal to 1 unit. Okay, so this is the original amount invested. Sige nga, what is 6% of 1? It is 0.06. Okay, so kapag simple, palaging 0.06 lamang ang interest niya kada period. So, if we want to get A of 1, so this means the accumulated value at time 1. So, this is the amount of your money at time 1. It is simply 1, the original amount invested, plus 6% of 1. So, that's why we have this. Okay? Paano kunyari A of 2 ang kailangan natin? Okay? So, that means ito, di ba, meron na tayong amount dito, that is 1 plus 0.06. Dadagdagan lang natin ng 0.06. Okay? Kasi yun lang yung amount of interest every period. It's 0.06 kasi that's 6% of the original amount invested, which is 1. So, that's why ganito ang itsura ng ating A of 2. Ganyan na ang amount ng investment mo at time 2. Previous amount plus this is the amount of interest during this period. Okay? Simplifying, we have this. Okay? Diba, your A of 1 is 1 plus 0.06. Okay, hindi ko gagawin ito, hindi ko to i-add. Gagawin ko siyang ganito. Okay, 1 plus 2 times 0.06. So, I can have this general form. Okay, this function. So, your accumulation function looks like 1 plus t times the interest, the constant simple interest. Okay? So what do you notice? Your accumulation function is a linear function when you have a simple interest rate assumption. Okay? Ang graph nito, kamukha nung graph natin kanina, yung first graph. Okay? When I show you the graph of amount functions. Okay? It's a linear graph. Alright? Okay. What about the second assumption? The compound interest rate assumption. Okay, so here, both principal and accrued interest earn interest. But this time, this 6% is the constant compound interest rate. So, the original amount invested is still 1. Okay, and then for the first period, yung 1 unit natin mag-grow ng 6%. So that's why we have this. Okay? Now, for the second period, di ba kanina when we discuss simple, we just add 0.06. Dito, hindi. Okay? Ganito siya. Ito yung previous amount, which is A of 1 plus 6% of A of 1. Kasi di ba itong A of 1, nandito na yung principal at saka yung interest. Mag-earn pareho yun ng interest. So that's why I multiplied them by 6%. So ganito ang itsura kapag compound interest rate assumption. Hindi ko kukunin ang numerical value. Ganito ko lang siya isi-simplify. I will factor out A of 1, right? Okay, and then what is A of 1? 1 plus 0.06. And then we'll have like this. Okay, para makita nyo, Ganito ang magiging general form niya. Yeah? Okay, and this time we have an exponential function. The graph of this function is the same as nung second graph kanina when I showed you some graphs of capital A of t. Okay, it's exponential. Okay? Now, my question is, which is the better assumption? Okay? The simple or the compound? Okay? Let's check their graphs. Okay? So, itong line na to, ito yung simple interest rate, and then itong exponential na graph na to, this one is for the compound interest rate assumption. Graph ito ng ating small a of t, our accumulation function. The original amount invested is 1 unit. Okay. Based on this graph, alin ang mas magandang assumption? Okay. It depends. Okay. If you have a short-term investment like less than 1 period or 1 year, kunyari ito yung 1 year, okay, sino yung nagpe-perform ng mas maganda or nagbibigay ng mas mataas na accumulated value? Itong line. Diba? So, yung simple interest rate assumption ay better kapag short-term investment or kapag ang investment mo ay less than 1 period. Pero, kapag after 1 period na, okay, so for long-term investment, mas maganda talaga ang compound interest rate assumption. Ayun, no? Mas mataas siya kesa dito sa line. Okay? So, let me give you a summary. Ayan, no? Simple versus compound. Okay? So, simple interest rate is better, okay, for short-term investments. Okay? Pero kapag long-term, si compound naman yung maganda. Okay? And then at t equals 1, the two assumptions give equal accumulated value. Dun sila nag-intersect. Okay? Aside from, of course, a of 0. Okay? Kasi pareho silang 1 at times 0. Let's apply these two assumptions sa ating effective rate of interest. Okay? Here, this is note number 1. Actually, this is a theorem and we're going to prove this. If we have a constant simple interest rate, then our effective rate of interest is decreasing. So, hindi maganda ang assumption na simple interest rate kapag long-term yung investment natin kasi ang effective rate of interest ay pababa. Okay? We showed kanina that if we assume a constant simple interest rate, ito ang itsura ng ating accumulation function. It's 1 plus I times t. Okay. Now, let's recall, ano ba yung definition natin ng effective rate of interest? Diba yan yon? In terms of small a. Okay, para magamit natin ito. Okay? Tapos ano lang, ipa-plug in nyo lang dito, what is a of n? E di 1 plus in. Like this. Okay? And then you do the math. Okay? Tingnan nyo kung sino yung magka-cancel. Okay? And then you're going to have this. So, is it really decreasing? Kapag meron tayong constant simple interest rate, ito, constant yung I. This one is a simple interest rate. Okay? So, let us see. The effective rate of interest is equal to the constant simple interest rate divided by 1 plus I times n minus 1. And yes, okay, our effective rate of interest, I sub n, okay, decreases with time. Because kapag pinalaki nyo ng pinalaki itong n dito sa baba, liliit itong fraction na ito. Right? Let's now have the second note. This time, we have a constant compound interest rate. So if we have this assumption, we have a constant effective rate of interest. Okay, so let us see. So this time, we let our accumulation function be equal to 1 plus I raised to t. It's an exponential function. And we recall again the definition of the effective rate of interest. And then, we're just going to substitute this function here. Okay, so it's like this. Kita nyo? And then, factor out 1 plus I raised to n minus 1. Okay, tapos makikita nyo, magka-cancel ito. Okay, tapos ito, 1 minus 1, cancel din. You will only have I. So, nakita nyo, kapag constant compound interest rate ang ating assumption, kung ano yung constant compound interest rate na I, yun din yung ating effective rate of interest. This note here is very important. Okay, gagamitin natin siya sa mga problem solving natin. So, kapag may assumption na constant compound interest rate, automatically, that is our effective rate of interest. Ayan, no? Your I sub n is equal to I. Okay, the effective rate of interest is equal to the constant compound interest rate. All right? So, I think that's it. I hope you learned something from this video. See you in my next video.